Right, welcome to this week's Talent Talk. Last week we called our Talent Talk the Big Recruitment Argument. I can't remember what it was about, but it was something contentious.
What's wrong with your tech? It's an echo, bad echo.
That's you then.
In the comments,
no echo for me.
What is everybody else experiencing?
It's a Canadian echo is what it is.
Maybe.
Anybody else getting an echo? Can you hear me?
It's the new import tax.
Okay, so we've got three people here. Myself, Chad, and Animal. I'll invite you to introduce yourselves in a second. We've got somebody else who's really the star of the show, to be honest, which is Jacob, who's, it says here, he's accepted and connecting, but he is saying that he doesn't know what's wrong with his technology. So, Jacob, I want to know whether you're using the same technology that those companies are not responding to you about in terms of those applications you've been making. Like Amazon, you're probably using the same technology to communicate with Amazon, who never got back to you, maybe. Let's see if you can get on here. Try and do it on Google Chrome if you're not using Google Chrome. Anyway, we're going to get started. So, Chad, do you want to just quickly introduce yourself, please?
Yeah, Chad Sowash, been in the industry, recruitment tech, 20 years or so. Check Joel and I out on chadcheese.com, Chad Cheese Podcast. And I'm the only Chad Sowash on LinkedIn. So if you want to know more about me, check out LinkedIn. That's all I got.
Great. Animal.
What kind of accent is that? You want to know a little more about me? Where are you from?
Where am I from? The U.S.
No, potash. We sell a lot of potash here in Canada. They make it in Saskatchewan. It's a fertilizer. Whenever I think of his name, potash. That's what comes to mind.
Very nice. Okay. Very nice, Michael.
I am the host of the Recruiting Animal Show. I don't know anything. Adam begged me to come on because Madsen was coming on. He knows that he hates me. He wanted to stir things up a little. That's the only reason I'm here, okay? I don't know anything. Okay.
It's not the only reason I invited you on, but I did invite you and Jacob at exactly the same time because I thought that people might be interested in what happened.
He's been saying I'm an awful person since before, I don't know, years ago.
I've read that quite a few times on Facebook, and that's one of the reasons that I paired you up.
Yep.
But okay, let's listen. The thing that we're talking about today is recruitment is no longer a human job. That's the kind of question that we're posing here.
You're supposed to say resolved. Recruiting is no longer.
Yeah. Okay.
And then we're going to debate it.
All right. So there's about what I wanted to do was just talk through the different aspects of recruitment, right from the very beginning through to the job getting placed. And let's talk about
just before we get going. Why don't you pick somebody good like Billy out of the attendees and put them on in place of the Viking. Okay, yeah, I'm not going to take charge. Go ahead, do what you want.
I think we could do that, but I really want the Viking to join us. Are you going to? The question, I suppose, Jacob, can you put in the comments? Do you think you're going to be able to get on screen? If the answer is no, then I'm going to choose somebody else to see if they'll come and join us. But let's get started with the actual topic anyway. Yeah. Right. So I want to talk through all the different aspects of recruitment, and let's see if we think that humans need to do the particular activities or whether technology can actually do it. So I think the first stage in recruiting is taking the brief. It's talking to your hiring manager and finding out what they're actually looking for. Is this something that a human needs to do? Does a human need to actually speak to an individual to do it? What do you think, guys?
Go, Chad. Chad can go first.
Okay. Up front, yeah. I mean, you need to be able to feed the beast, and the beast is AI, machine learning, all that other fun stuff. So in the learning phases, yes, but overall, long term, no. I mean, you can pull that data together, and you don't need to actually have that conversation. Now, to be a liaison, to be able to have somebody in place, to be able to make minor changes, so on and so forth, yeah, there's a possibility. I think there's still a place for a recruiter in that arena. It's just not going to be the main part of what they're doing.
So what, when there's a brand new job that the company hasn't hired before, for example, maybe the human involvement at that stage is more?
Yeah. Because again, you have to feed the beast. You have to be able to get all that data. How are you going to get the data? So there's a couple of different ways you can do it that way. You can obviously do it through a chat bot. I mean, we'll probably talk about that later. But I think right out of the gates, that's the best way for us to be able to take that information.
Yeah. Okay.
You want me to answer now? Yeah.
Yeah, please.
Okay. Hiring managers are stupid. They're about the stupidest people in the world. Everybody knows it. If you ask people directly, they will deny it. But if you see their answers to all kinds of discussions on Facebook, it's obvious. Every recruiter has to know how to put a hiring manager in her place. They want everything. They don't want to pay anything. Somebody with a personality, with character, with strength of will has to be there to knock them down. Yeah. So don't tell me it's not a people profession. Yes, it is. What's a machine going to do? Like how? Oh, I'm sorry, Miss Hiring Manager. That's not clear. Can you help it? That's not what you need. Okay.
Does that recruiter need to have? So you say they need to have personality. Do they need to have levels of personality like what you've just displayed?
Yeah, they have to be hard. They can't be wimps. Even Chad Potash is going to agree with me about that. Am I right, Chad?
No. And what it all comes down to is, good old world stuff. There's got to be great expectations put in place. And yeah, there are some hiring managers out that don't know what the hell they're looking for, but you need to standardize shit. And that's one of the biggest problems is you've got too many goddamn recruiters that are out there that are fucking wimps, right? And what they'll do is, oh yeah, no, we'll do this and we'll do that. When there's a standard put in place and you'll have a wimp that's there, then you don't have to worry about that shit. That was the proper context of shit, Michael. No. At the end of the day,
first of all, hold on, everybody. The guy says he doesn't agree with me. Now everything he's saying is just the same what I said.
You're talking about something that on one end of the spectrum, but that's not where we always play at the spectrum, right? We always have the other side. Yes. So we have to set standards, and those standards will be even more complete when you don't have somebody to bang on, meaning a human recruiter.
Yeah. Okay. So I tell you what Michael just said about hiring managers being stupid is almost correct. However, in my view, I don't think they're.
Everybody agrees with me. It's obvious, right?
I don't think they're stupid. But what I do think is most hiring managers do not understand recruitment and how it works. So they put together a list of here's all the different things I need for this job based on what the incumbent either hasn't had or what the incumbent, or they want an identical person to the incumbent, and they don't really understand that you don't go cherry picking. You got to hire the best of what's available. So they normally put together a shopping list of all the different things that the candidates need. And most recruiters, again, actually, what he just said, most recruiters probably don't have the balls to stand up to that person and say,
recruiter will have the backbone. A good recruiter, a machine won't. Okay.
Don't need to. Don't need to. You have standards, process, and expectations put in place. That's the biggest problem with the process that we have today, is because we have weak-ass recruiters that'll go in and go, oh, I'm sorry, Mr. or Mrs. Hiring Manager. Yeah, I'll get that for you just in a second. Bullshit. You set a standard in place. The company has agreed upon it. HR has agreed upon it. You know exactly what it is. The problem is
everything works perfect.
Target. Stop moving the target.
So Toby,
stop moving the target. It's that easy.
Toby's made a good comment, which is an interesting comment, which is that everything that Animal just said can be done with tech. As a hiring manager, he can put a rec in. There's no reason why an ATS can't flag up the skills and salary and location that are unrealistic. Maybe.
Right. Toby,
Animal, as a recruiter, would your job be easier if you didn't have to deal with hiring managers?
Look, I believe in machines. I'm waiting for machines to do it all. I think they can do it better than us. But with this, if the hiring manager, who's stupid, gets to, set the search, you need a human being to go in there and punch them out. That's what you need.
Yeah, no, could be the case. Let's move on to the next bit. So,
I'm all for machines. Okay, let me state my case at the start. People are stupid. Go ahead.
So actually, Toby made another comment. Sorry, Jacob. By the way, it says that you're incompatible. We've been told that you are incompatible. So literally, the technology is telling us that you're incompatible. I'm gonna try it one more time, and hope that you're doing this on a different device, just in case. So Toby made another comment earlier, which was, what about the stage before this? Which is, I've lost it. There's too many comments on here. The stage, he said about the stage before this, which is basically the telltale signs that somebody is going to be moving on, the triggers that somebody's going to be moving on. I would say that's kind of pre-recruitment, but yeah, the demand signal. What about the demand signal? I mean, yeah, if somebody's sitting on their computer at work surfing, Indeed, then probably that's a pretty good signal that. But of course, you can use products like Foresight, and there's a bunch of other products that will help you to reasonably accurately predict what type of people you need to be hiring. I'd say that comes before recruitment, though. We're really talking about the recruitment process.
Look, my good friend, Amy Miller, works at Microsoft. That's a big company. It's bureaucratic. They have processes. Recruiting Blogs hires her to do webinars to tell other recruiters how to put hiring managers in their place. Okay, if you need it in Microsoft, you need it everywhere. All this crap that Potash is telling you, oh, you put the process in place and it works automatically. That's not true, okay?
Today it's not true. Michael, today is not true, yes. But we're not just talking about today. We're talking about tomorrow. I know it's hard for you to see
tomorrow?
past
Tomorrow
your
in 2030?
sweetheart. But at the end of the day, we're talking about tomorrow.
Another animal bad phrase. Watch it.
Okay, let's move on. Let's move on to the next bit. The next bit, as far as I'm concerned, is sourcing. So it's identifying all the people that might be able to do the job. Is this a human job, or is this something you outsource to a piece of technology?
Go ahead, Michael.
I don't know. I imagine that eventually software will be able to scour the internet and find the right people and send them an email. I don't know enough. I told you. You put me on as a foil to the clown, and I don't know anything.
Right. So, so my perspective on this is that the human involvement in sourcing is probably 10% of what it was 10 years ago. There's far, far less. Sourcing used to be by far the longest part of a recruitment process, identifying the individual. I used to go down to the hall in Glasgow where the trainee chartered accountants were doing their exams, and I would literally hand out miniatures of whiskey after they finished their final exams with my contact details on it, and maybe on the other side a list of some of the employers.
Let me ask you a question. Another visionary. This is a guy who bills himself as a visionary on LinkedIn. I'm not making it up. Glenn Cathy. Everybody loves him. Everybody respects him. He does a lecture on the dark side of LinkedIn. Lots of people are there. They're too stupid to put in a detailed profile. They've just got hints of what they do. And he says it takes a recruiter, a knowledgeable person, to find that stuff, first of all, and then to figure out what it means. Can a machine do that, Adam? I don't think so.
Well, I think a machine could do it better and better, but we've got to distinguish between. He's a
visionary. You're not.
Because it's not on my LinkedIn profile.
It doesn't.
So now I need to put that on my LinkedIn profile. Okay, that's great.
It doesn't mean I necessarily share his vision, but I mean, to an extent, that's correct. So, if you're looking for an underwater basket weaver who speaks Swahili, it's probably unlikely that Pocket Recruiter has done that search before and knows the people to go and bring back for you. It's probably more likely you use a tool to identify who's all the clinical project managers, who's all the digital marketing executives, the much more common kind of job descriptions and that type of thing.
Does Chad want to say something? Or can I?
Yeah, we've already seen this happen. I mean, you saw SourceCon. SourceCon, a machine came in third, right? It took a human to do in like 24, 26 hours what it took a machine to do in 6 seconds. That was very early stage. So if we think that sourcing isn't going to be done by machines, I mean, even down to the clinical technician, it doesn't matter. And we're fucking idiots because it's going to happen. It's happening already. It's just going to get even better. So as we have these purple squirrels that we're looking for, that everybody's like, oh, the purple squirrel. Yeah, we have to get our hiring manager expectations in place. We have to have standards, and the process is going to be simple at that point because we know what we're looking for. The problem is right now we have a moving target because we have hiring managers who can negotiate with us. When all that shit's gone, we know what we can actually pump into the system. That's how shit works, Michael.
Shit. Okay. You know,
deliberate use of the animal bad word.
I've spoken to Adam before. I have an idea of what he's into, and here's what he does or promotes: go for the low hanging fruit. Okay, so yes. He's not interested in people who are really hard to find. He's interested in software that finds the people who are easy to find and who are actually ready to look for a job or curious about what you're up to. Okay, so if you section the market like that or partition it like that, then yeah, okay, the machine can do it. But if you look at the bigger market and the hard to find people, he's out in left field.
Yeah, no, that's a very good point. And
it is a good point, but I mean, there's more to be said about that. I mean, we're talking about the front end of sourcing, right? There's more than just sourcing. There's nurturing. There's all that other happy horse shit that you have to do that we don't even do today because what happens? We have candidates. We have candidates that are thrown into a black hole.
No wonder they have Trump for a president.
Candidate, yeah. That's a sore subject. Go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have interrupted.
Let me just say on that. That's actually a very, very good point because we're talking about, we're not distinguishing here between people that are working in in-house recruitment versus people that are working in agencies. And I think the distinction that I see today, and this is not 100% correct, but the people that are working in-house, they get the first shot at most vacancies. They tend to fill the easier to fill vacancies. And when they're handling 30 recs at one time, they can't necessarily go and do a really deep dive that an agency recruiter has the time and the incentive to go and do. So it may well be that the technology on the side of the in-house teams at the sourcing stage is more beneficial. Maybe, maybe not.
Go ahead. Chad.
Yeah, either of you.
Read some comments. Give the people a break. Somebody's put a big paragraph up there.
Yeah. Okay. It seems like Jacob isn't coming on here, so I'm gonna invite my friend Stephen O'Donnell and see if he wants to.
He's got an accent. Okay.
Incredibly.
This guy talks like he does.
He's very opinionated. No, he doesn't talk like I do. He talks. Okay. So. Well, yeah, here. Okay.
Afternoon, guys.
There he is.
Impromptu. Okay, Stephen, we're talking. So what we're talking through here is you're Jacob Madsen, by the way. He hasn't been able to join us.
Can I be awkward as Jacob?
You could be absolutely awkward. So listen, you're actually a guy that works for Pocket Recruiters. So tell us, are humans needed as much as they were in the past at the sourcing phase?
It would be easy to say that they're needed more or they're needed as much as they ever were. There are some humans who, let's face it, will be automated out in some ways. There are parts of the job that are the really dull parts of the job where you've got sourcers who are plowing through thousands of CVs. And yes, some aspects of that will be thinned down. But the crucial skills that differentiate recruiters from the men in the streets will be much more important than ever. And in fact, you're going to be able to get back to the abilities of an individual recruiter to be able to distinguish between good candidates and bad candidates. And will I submit this person to my client or not, or to the hiring manager? So yeah, recruiting skills are going to be more important. And crucially, Pocket Recruiter doesn't have a process where it decides who a shortlist is going to be and submits them to a hiring manager. The recommendations from Pocket will identify, find, and thin down the best possible candidates. But the recruiter still has to decide, will I submit this candidate or not? They still have to contact the candidate and check them out for various other cultural fit reasons and so on.
You can't not here to be. I didn't bring you on to lecture us, okay? Interrupt the guy when he's made a point. I'm going to tell you.
So,
Animal, you're here to listen.
Animal, so the decision making process is what you're saying.
Once your machine does all the searching online and finds a list of people, then it automatically sends out these bland emails. Here's a position. Are you going to be interested? There's going to be people who aren't interested. Okay, and recruiters have to call them and persuade them to be interested. That's what I said about the low-hanging fruit. You're going to want to bring in the people who respond. Oh, you let me finish. No, let me talk. Okay, I'm almost done. So you're all about, if there's 1 million people in this job in the world, you only need about 2,000 who are actually interested in making a move or curious to respond to the email. But what if there's not 1 million? Okay, you're not going to get enough candidates. You need someone to pester these people, to cold call them, to leave voicemail, all kinds of stuff.
I think they're going to answer your damn phone. They're not even answering phone calls today.
Well, okay, hold on. Right, so I've got four questions for you. Number one, are you eating a carrot or a turnip?
It's breakfast time here. It's 8 o'clock in the morning.
It's laced with
celery, and I got some yogurt as well. Potash is drinking coffee. I mean, you're not commenting on him.
Because that's a normal breakfast thing to do.
I'm a vegetarian.
Okay, so that's so is coffee. Okay, so that's the first thing. The second thing is, in terms of this bland message that you're talking about that goes out. So let's say Pocket Recruiter or other sourcing tools.
What is Pocket Recruiter? You brought him on, let him plug it. I don't really know that much about it.
You were just bitching about he was talking too much. Now you want him to plug shit. Are you kidding me?
I'm going to be quiet.
It's a sourcing tool, and it finds potential candidates. It looks into LinkedIn, and it looks into CV databases, and it looks into your own database, and it tells you which people are most likely to be great for the role. So it doesn't necessarily.
Thank you very much, Adam.
Yeah, but why?
I don't even need to be here.
Why does it? But why does it need to be a bland message it then sends out? Because technology starts to understand what people are like, what their personality's like. If you've seen Crystal, for example, Crystal tells you what somebody's personality is like.
Sucks. It's like astrology.
It's getting better. It's getting much better.
I'll be brief. There are programs now that are doing facial analysis and they're analyzing your conversation. I believe, like Potash says, those things are going to be very sophisticated in the future, and machine can probably make a better assessment of someone's personality than some dumb recruiter.
Yeah, no, I mean, Crystal is becoming really,
what you mean, Animal.
I mean, it's becoming really good. It used to say that my wife and I were the same. It now says we're really different. So it's completely changed its opinion. And that's because it's learning.
Maybe you've changed. Maybe you've changed, Adam.
Yes, or maybe she has. Okay, so the next bit is around the actual assessing.
How long your marriage is going to last?
I'm too scared to ask. I really am. But actually, I've got to say about that, I am really sorry to all the people that have tuned in for the fact that we've got a bunch of guys that are on this. The reason for that is because my wife does not let me speak to women, so I don't know any. Okay, the next bit's around matching, around assessing. So we can, I mean, you just said it, Animal just said it. There are tools which will look at your face and it'll see whether you're honest, whether you're telling the truth. It'll interview. This Israeli interviewing product says it can measure the depths of the human soul. Now, do humans have to do that first stage kind of assessment and interview or not?
No.
Okay, Chad, no, and why?
No, they don't need to, because in most cases, the first piece of the interview is the basic requirements. So you're going through basic requirements. You can whether the basic requirements are actually fed through chat messaging, it doesn't matter, right? The different ways to reach out to different types of people with different types of messaging. So no, I think later on down the line, when you start getting into later interviews, I start doing cultural fit and things like that. Yeah, that might be different, but right out of the gate, no.
Are you?
Your nose hair?
No.
Yeah.
That's not my nose. It's my sideburn, okay? This is my nose, okay?
Okay, so Chad, I entirely agree. I don't think humans need to do that first stage assessment at all. I think that products like HireVue, on a reasonably simple basis, can do it, and then products like Robot Vera on the telephone and interview can actually do a pretty good job of assessing the individual.
Explain it. I've heard of the Robot Vera, but what does it do on the telephone that you're talking about?
Well, it asks you questions in Russian, because it's only really available in Russia just now. So Chad will be doing it in Russian in about 10 years, no doubt. It asks you questions, it records your answers, it analyzes what you've said based on the words you've used, and it then tells the recruiter, this person's good, this person's no good. So
I'm in favor of any kind of assessment as early in the process as possible, so that you're able to ask questions based on whatever information you've gathered from all these assessments, whether it be psychometrics or skills and abilities or any number of other things. So that then informs the human who's involved in the interview process more to do that. And if that helps to prioritize which candidates you call first, then that's not a bad thing. I do understand the arguments on bias and so on, where you might be pushing some candidates out of the process. But so long as the system is not ruling candidates out, and that there's a catch-all, that if a great candidate who from all the other regards is maybe not a perfect fit for the job, can somehow go around and say, well, I think I've been misjudged here. So long as there's a catch-all for that candidate to be reconsidered, then assessment early in the process is the way for me.
Well, the argument is that human bias is removed by using technology, but of course,
no, you're behind. You're behind, Adam. All the articles now are saying that the machines are just as racist and sexist and bigoted and biased as we recruiters are. Recruiters, you never see anyone say it, but the implication is we're the most awful people on earth, keeping everybody away from getting jobs. I want to know if people agree with me about that. But now the machines are just as bad as us, okay?
That's because what's feeding the machine? What's feeding the machine?
Yeah, the humans create the algorithm, and until the algorithm is not created by the human, I can understand the argument that human bias still comes through the technology. But that should become eradicated as machines learn more and more. But
we've identified it, so it makes it a little bit easier to do so. It's
certainly the case where if you're matching someone's CV to a job spec, then what has ruled the employment market for the past 50 years has been masculine ways of describing things. And if a woman's been writing her CV and she might not be using the same terminology, the same phrasing, she might not be focusing on the same things that meant that she was successful in her previous job that tie in with how that's described in the job spec. So
let me Steve, let me ask you a question about that. I read these articles by Textio, and they're saying that they're better at writing job descriptions and ads that are going to appeal to women. And to me, it seems like the vocabulary issues they're raising are so picayune, insignificant. If you use a word like charge, it's going to be too aggressive. Oh, women are so sensitive. They like cuddling each other and feeling good with everybody, not anything energetic. I strikes me as bullshit. There.
Well,
I use the word.
To an old white male, it would.
Yeah. Listen,
I'm not some macho guy, okay? I'm a softie.
Clearly,
Says the guy.
More of a chihuahua than you. Yeah, it's okay.
Have you got a raccoon's tail on the back of that hat, by the way?
It's a fake fur. Okay.
Okay. Listen, I want to talk about a couple of the things on the side on the chat here. So Mark Hopkins says, I'm just wondering which sectors we're talking about here, because 99% of the roles I have to approach the candidate in a headhunt method. Now, this is a really vital, important aspect to this. We cannot go and approach the 1 in a million candidate and then make them talk to a robot who's going to assess them. We have to lead them through we have to take them down the red carpet. We've got to give them champagne, and we've got to roll out the red carpet. Where we've got the 1 in a million job and everybody wants that job, we can make them go and do a decathlon if we want. We can make them do whatever we want. So we do really need to consider about, are the employers in control here, or is the job in demand, or is the candidate in demand? And that really dictates which tools we're going to use and which bit of automation.
It's an old recruiter distinction when you're headhunting a candidate as opposed to a candidate who has applied for a job. A candidate who has applied for a job is already pushing at the door. But if you're headhunting someone, then your very first job, once you've decided that you want to talk with them further, is to flip them so that they want the job enough to stay on the call, or to call you back when it suits them, or for them to put their own momentum into the process. So you need to put the boot on the other foot when you headhunt someone. You need to get them pushing, and the way to do that is by persuading them. You need to pull them in and give them enough of an incentive to want more.
Right. Yeah, and I don't believe that if they're not in demand, you treat them like shit. I mean, that's not what you do. I mean, overuse of Michael's term. It's not about demand, because the person that you're treating and throwing into the black hole today could be your highly in demand person tomorrow. So the demand structure changes with the actual market itself. So we can't treat candidates like crap. We can't throw them into a black hole. We should treat them with respect. Not to mention, we also have to understand one of the things that talent acquisition does not get, and I understand recruiters don't, they're more tactical, sources are more tactical. If you have a brand that is a consumer brand, you are actually affecting the bottom line, the actual bottom line of that organization, which we saw from Virgin Media study, right? Every single organization that is out there should understand that every one of these candidates who are being touched by a bot, by a recruiter, doesn't matter, are being impacted by a brand, either positively or negatively. They cannot get a job, and they can still be impacted positively, right?
Even though the plumber's company has a brand.
What?
Even Joe the Plumber's Company, the smallest company in an unglamorous area, they still have a brand in their own business.
Yeah, but okay. So somebody posted on a kind of message on LinkedIn about this show yesterday. Somebody posted and said, "It's a shame we don't have a candidate represented on the panel here to explain what it's like from their perspective to have humans taken from the dehumanization of recruitment." My response to that is, humans, an automated piece of technology does not forget to respond to the candidate to say, your CV has been received and we're going to look at it. Humans ignore, CVs coming in sometimes. So
candidates want engagement. It doesn't matter where it's coming from. Period. Would you rather have engagement from a system that says you're through the process or not? So, it's a black hole versus being engaged by something.
I wouldn't claim to be a candidate, but from the perspective of the thing I do every year for the NORAs, I register with maybe 600 separate recruitment websites each year as a candidate to test out the candidate experience. And
you do it yourself, or would you get Pocket Recruiter to do it?
I wish I had a robot to do it for me, but no, it's all these hands do it. But yes, absolutely. Candidates will take a fast no over a slow yes or a slow maybe every day of the week, because they just want to know where they are in the process. It's going to take a bit longer. We've got your details. Thank you very much. And if every now and then there's a drip of more information just to keep someone warm, then absolutely that's fine. But the black hole is unwelcome all round by all candidates.
So computer says no is better than silence.
Yeah, absolutely. If you apply for a job, there's maybe a reasonable amount of time where, there's maybe a reasonable amount of time. If you hear back within 5 minutes of applying for a job, sorry, you've been unsuccessful, then that's going to feel a bit cold. But if there's
unless you get feedback, which is you're unsuccessful because you didn't say that you had any experience in JavaScript in your application.
You're opening a can of worms there.
And don't go giving reasons like that early in the process, because as Animal says, a can of worms. You don't want to give people a reason to argue that they are demonstrably, verifiably the right person for the job or entitled to an interview. In the recruitment process, I always say that an employer has the discretion to hire who they want, and it might be that they have the discretion to hire the second best person for the job. And the best person for the job, I don't think they have the right to say, well, I was entitled to that job. You said you wanted this, this, and this, and I've got all of that, and the guy you hired doesn't. So I'm going to take you to court. You're entitled to hire the person that you like, the person that you think will fit in with your organization. And you don't have to be able to say, well, here's how I justify all of that. You have the discretion to hire and to not hire anyone that you want.
Yeah, better be ready to defend that. Especially, you better be ready to defend that all the way down to the T, because if you're hiring nothing but white males and we're getting back in our discussion,
the most evil people in the world. Oh God, yeah.
That's all you're doing, and you can see
if you have a pattern of behavior of only hiring blondes with big chests, then you're in trouble. Or any other demographic, then absolutely you're not wrong there. But if you've got people who are competing for the job and you choose someone on whichever measure is second or third or fourth best for the job because they support the same football team as you, then without saying it out loud, I think employers should have the discretion to do that because they would just feel more comfortable with that candidate. Now, they cannot cross the protected lines of, race, religion, sexuality, and so on. Absolutely not. But an employer still has to have that discretion.
Okay, let me just move on, please, because so Rob's asked the question, which is, do these tools pick out where someone has missed something off their CV? The simple answer to that is yes, they do. So chatbots do it, like Robo Recruiter, for example, does it, and they'll simply give you a message, which is, you've said you've got 5 years experience in Java, but you haven't mentioned whether you've got any JavaScript. Do you?
Yes.
And then they just take you through, ask you questions, and fill in the blanks.
Not to mention that you can pull data, as you well know, from other sources that will complete that profile even more. So as we try to make a CV resume scrunch down into 1 page, 2 page, there's a ton of information that you're losing that you can pull from other sources.
Yeah. Absolutely. Okay, so listen. Let me just quickly tell you. Sorry, go on.
Yeah, maybe it's often a tangent. You don't have to pursue it. But I'm not clear what Chad was saying about the brand and, turning people off. What does he mean exactly?
Well, it's all about candidate experience. But Chad, do you want to just give a bit more on that?
Yeah. So just Google I think it's Virgin Media.
Don't send me. I'm asking you, okay?
Well, I'm trying to make it short so that we can get on with this. I know you're not used to short. You're used to long versions.
I'm used to short.
So anyway, Virgin Media lost $6 million because they were treating their candidates like shit. They did research on this. Then they also saw that if they could prospectively retain that $6 million would be what? Good for the company. Not to mention also they could prospectively turn some of their not customers into customers. That delta was like $13 million. So that's an impact that we are creating in talent acquisition because we don't recognize that we are actually impacting customers with our brand and turning them away from our product.
That's true. Jacobs just said giving feedback in some kind of form is a human right. And that is where we have a total breakdown in what we see in the market today. Is it a human right? Is it your absolute right to get feedback?
Isn't it part of the UN Charter?
Well, exactly. Is it breaking the law not to? Jacob, could you just put in your stats in the chat here around the number of jobs the number of applications you made where you got no response back? Because it's absolutely incredible what this number is. and it's companies like Amazon. Amazon, no feedback, like twice, no feedback from Amazon as a good example.
I'd say it depends where you are in the process. If early in the process, not so much. If you've been for an interview, then it's not a right, but you should expect feedback. Absolutely.
Yeah. No, very good point. Very good point.
But don't expect the feedback to be accurate. If you're not getting the job, don't expect them to tell you the truth about why you didn't get it.
Yeah.
I'm not meaning that unkindly. That's just in practical terms. I wouldn't necessarily believe what I'm told when I didn't get the job.
Let me just give you a quick chatbot story, which is quite funny. I enjoyed this. Volkswagen. Volkswagen were looking at chatbots for recruitment to put them on their careers site, and people ask questions about jobs and things. The reason they didn't go for it is because they could see a situation where somebody posted, am I going to be working on the cool new technology that's going to fix the emissions output from the car, that's going to, basically manipulate the emissions output from the car? And the chatbot responding, that sounds good. Screenshot, company gets fined 100 million euros. That sounds like quite fun. So I guess you do need to make sure that your chatbot knows exactly what it should be, exactly what it should be saying. What's the next bit in recruitment? The next bit's like making offers, handling, objections, negotiations, getting the person to say yes and turn up at the right time. So technology that's going to help us to do this, or is this absolutely all about humans?
Bring it.
I can see potentially that technology could do that. I don't think it should, but I think technology could get past that. There's a taboo to do with people talking about salaries and employers talking about salaries for a job, and people are loath to bring it up in interviews because they think if I mention money too early, then I'll be ruled out of the process. But if you don't mention it at all, you could find yourself halfway into the interview process for a job and then realize they're not paying anything like what you're looking for. So I could see technology having a place in that where people find it awkward to talk about. But frankly, I think interviewers and employers and interviewees should man up and just realize what they're in the interview for.
That's a very good point, though, because people will talk to technology about awkward conversations more so than they will talk to a human. And if you look at the things that people put into chatbots, some of the questions are like, will I get fired for smoking in the office? And like things that there might seem like stupid questions, but they actually want to know the answer to that. And they would never ask a human recruiter. So
people are going to read that.
Well, I mean, yeah, but this is by the time I've heard about this, it's not like you don't know who the human is. But do they? No, they probably don't know that a human is going to read that. Also, bear in mind, however, they may well be anonymous at that stage. So this might be pre-application. And for me, anything that gets people from being a stranger to getting them to being an enthusiastic applicant is good.
Make sure you ask that question in an incognito window or through a VPN.
Yeah, so that candidate ID is not telling the employer exactly who it was that did it.
Exactly, a bunch of grasses.
Yeah, exactly. So the bit around, I think in terms of that sort of making offers bit, I can see what Stephen's point is. And negotiating salaries, absolutely. 30, no 50. 35, no 45. Okay, 40, fine. If a human recruiter doesn't need to be involved in that, and there's a bottom set and a top set, maybe.
And they've already come out with some pretty awesome negotiating chatbots that are out there that have already been set in. I mean, Facebook's big issue where they were creating their own language. The bots were creating their own language. They were creating their own language to be more efficient, to actually negotiate with each other. That's what they were doing. That is what the exercise was for. Yeah. You can get into a chat bot right now with like all your services like Time Warner and AT&T and so on and so forth. Actually engage a chat bot. Every weekend or month, they will go back to AT&T. They will negotiate better prices for you and get money back.
Yeah.
So when it comes down to this whole negotiation thing, they're already kicking ass and taking names out there with AI. So there's no reason why we shouldn't be doing it.
Yep.
Well, remember in old-fashioned recruitment, a negotiation starts at the very beginning of the process. When you put an advert out, that's your starting play in terms of what you want to pay for the job. And when someone applies, every single thing that you do and say is all part of the negotiation and can be brought up later on to factor into what you're going to get offered.
Mm. Yeah. Well, in the US, we don't even put that. We don't even put that on our freaking job descriptions, which is a part of idiocracy.
Yeah.
I'm all for salary transparency.
Me too.
Okay. Alex Brock's made a comment here. The management of offers should start much earlier in the recruitment process, especially when you work in search or are looking to recruit niche roles. Objective being that when you get to offer stage, the candidate accepts. I mean, I entirely agree with that. I think it does need to start much earlier in the process because it prevents things breaking down later. So when it's more critical and when you're running out of time. Okay.
Adam Baldwin in freaking Boiler Room. Always be closing. That's the biggest part of the closing piece right there, right? Always be closing. If you're not closing from the start, then what the hell are you doing? Yeah. And this is this is one of the biggest roadblocks, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely agree. The next bit that I want to just talk about, which is a bit after the candidate said yes. I mean, the recruiter's still got a big job in that, which is getting the candidate into their seat on day one. So onboarding technology, absolutely, it's just scheduled communication. So it's scheduled communication. Get them to see if they've got any questions. If the chatbot can answer it, great. If it can't, so I think that is something that adds a lot of value to the process. We've talked about quite a lot of different types of technologies, all the way through from the taking the brief right through to the person starting on day one. And there are automated bits of technology that can do absolutely all of it, as far as I'm concerned. Every single thing. There is automated technology that can do the whole thing. But I think what we've agreed here is there are quite a few different scenarios where you don't want that, and you do want a human to be intervening at various different stages.
What I want is a big red button in the process that at any point a candidate can hit that and say, can I speak to a person here? Can I step out of the automated process?
Absolutely. Absolutely. No, absolutely. So Jacob's figures, because this is really good. So the numbers are 268 job applications over a 12-month period. And of those 268, 70% were where at least an 80% match with the job description. Not one single response received. I mean, this is almost a comedy. Like, I know it's not because it's bad for Jacob, but it's almost so ludicrous. It's almost fun. It's almost funny. Zero, not one response, not even an acknowledgement of application received. This is anything from the largest global companies with more than 50,000 employees through to a 5-man recruitment agency. I think, Jacob, my main comment about that is I think you might be using the same technology that you were trying to use to get.
I'll explain it. These guys are recruiters. They're in the recruiting groups on Facebook. They know who he is. Okay, that's his problem. But let me ask you something. I don't understand why a company like Amazon. I have to tell you how to pronounce that properly. Not Amazon or whatever you say. Amazon. Why don't they have it automated? Why don't they tell Jacob that you're no good? We don't want you. Why can't they do that? I don't understand that.
Well, I mean, they mostly should. I mean, most companies like that should be doing that.
Yeah, they should, but why don't they?
I don't know why Amazon hasn't. In this situation, I don't know why Amazon hasn't, except for I do know that Amazon specifically has got a very, very fragmented internal recruitment function. And some of that will probably be absolutely world-leading, best in class, whereas others might be working like it's the 1990s. So there will be a variant.
It's all about money. As soon as we start to help the rest of the company understand how talent acquisition, not only from a talent standpoint, impacts the organization because we're bringing you great talent, but that if we treat these people like shit, we throw them into a black hole, right? That it's going to impact our bottom line. If we can demonstrate that, and we should be able to demonstrate that, then they'll come to the table and they'll understand that, hey, Amazon or whatever you want to call them, Michael, if Amazon understands that, then guess what? They're going to use their pretty awesome freaking technology that they have on the front end, and they're going to start to adapt that to the back end for applicant tracking. I mean, they've got great technology. They should be able to do the exact same thing that they're doing.
So what's wrong there? They're talent acquisition leaders. They don't have the backbone to tell somebody at a senior level.
I think they understand. I don't think they understand. That's not a part of. So if you take a look at staffing, you take a look at RPO. What is it? It's a business, right? It's a business. It is dollars and cents. It's EBITDA. It's all that. When's the last time you talked to somebody in talent acquisition and they talk to you about EBITDA, or they talk to you about actual bottom line or anything like that? They don't, because that is not where their focus is. We need to change our focus. This is a business issue.
Yeah. No, Chad, I think you're absolutely correct. And the example that you gave earlier, the Virgin Media example, is an absolutely brilliant example. My problem with that is I've never seen any other example that is like that. I've not seen one other company that has directly measured the impact of candidate experience on bottom line.
So it's a non-replicated, non-proven experiment. That's what Adam is saying. It could be a unique event.
Cynical as I am, we do also need to remember that the Virgin Media exercise of putting that out there is a PR exercise in its own right. You know, it's a great good news story, and amongst the team there, that's something great they can put out there, and it's got all of us talking about it. But are there any others doing the same thing? No, we've not seen that. It would be nice to have a second example where we can see there's a pattern here. I do agree with you, and it feels right. But more examples would be appreciated.
No, it does feel right.
Appreciated, but we can't just sit back and say, well, until we get more examples, this shit just isn't. This doesn't make any sense. It makes sense, guys. It's like it's like the coal miner theory, right? You know, they go down, they get black lung, they start dying. There's nothing wrong with coal mines. No bullshit. I mean, we need to do something about this even before we get empirical evidence. That's all there is to it. We know that it's wrong. We need to change it.
Yeah. Great. Okay.
Of course, employer branding used to be called reputation, and reputation, there's a monetary value to reputation.
Yes.
That's true. And do you know something? That's a gap in the market. Somebody should set up a business that's primary purpose is to help employers understand the impact of their candidate experience on bottom line. Because I don't know anybody that does that. I know that Jerry Crispin and a few other people are doing a lot of really great work around promoting the enhancement of candidate experience. But I don't know anybody that specializes in linking it to bottom line, because that's
very regularly I'd have clients who were terrible hirers. They were great employers, but they were terrible at the recruitment process. And I would often prime candidates in advance and say, look, this company are awful at the recruitment process. The guy who's going to interview you, he's not that experienced at interviewing, and he'll ask some awkward questions. He'll probably ask some questions that are quite inappropriate. But if you can get in there as a fabulous employer, they haven't got it together in terms of the hiring process. Give them a pass in the same way as they might give you a pass for being a bad interviewee, but actually you'd be great for the job. They need to see past that. And candidates need to see past bad hiring processes, sadly, because it's all too common. And the same the other way around. Employers need to look past someone who's bad at interviewing for a job, but will be a great employee.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely right. And the
automation of the process can sometimes rule out candidates who would be, those bad interviewees for a job.
Yeah, no, you're completely correct. Listen, I think we've crammed a huge amount into this session, and I've really enjoyed it. I need to close this session now because I've only got about an hour and a half to read all the comments down the side. And there's been a lot of great discussion by the looks of things there. I haven't been able to take a look at it. Michael, I've got one question for you. If you change your hat and put a Darth Vader helmet on, are you wearing some sort of Star Wars Imperial?
I don't like Star Wars. I'm too old for Star Wars.
You're wearing an outfit there. You're wearing some sort of cosplay outfit, I think, beneath that.
I'm mesmerized with the eye.
I look like I'm in a porn movie. Not with these guys. No way. Okay.
No, you look like you're in some sort of cosplay.
Get some pretty girls here, okay? Then I'll liven it up. Oh, but that's sexist. Sorry.
Just let me know when that's
white male.
happening, because I'm not tuning into that.
I got to tell you something. White has changed. 20 years ago, I would be an ethnic white male. Now I'm a white male all of a sudden. And I don't like it. Because I could be a victim in the past. Now I'm an oppressor.
Yeah.
At the back end of the show, can I just, I know you mentioned it earlier, Adam, can I just apologize for 4 old white guys talking about equality and diversity? Like with all the white privilege that we've got, like, we know the answer.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, guys, like, on that note, thanks so much. I feel privileged that you guys have come and joined me. Bye, everybody. Sorry you couldn't make it, but hopefully we'll get you on again soon. Cheers, guys. Bye for now.
Go.
Oh, we still on? Do we have a debrief?
Nope.
Okay. Talk to you later. Bye-bye. Thanks.